Hello, Andoracs. I still haven't settled on an intro or a name for the fandom. But maybe my thing will be coming up with a new one each fortnight I'm back on.
Andorians. Oh no, wait, that's Star Trek.
Yeah. Although I'm very into my Star Trek at the moment, but that's a different podcast. Let's not start down that path and upset the Star Wars fans. So I'm back again. I'm filling in for Mike this week. I know he's been a very busy boy away on his holiday, so I think other than the fact that we thought it might be a nice burden to share being 12 episodes, he had this magical event away at a magical land with castles and princesses and fantastical characters booked. So I think this would have been a particularly difficult episode for him to be on. Luckily, I'm here to sort of fill his shoes, but the man who is going to fill the shoes of the knowledgeable Mike, returning for his second episode in a row, is Andy. Great to see you, mate.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm not sure about being knowledgeable. There's a lot that I don't know at the moment with this, and I think it's working to its benefit for that as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's keeping it fresh and keeping it exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. There's so much that went on in this episode, even though some of it probably seems a bit sort of middling and almost fillerish.
Mm,
Um, yeah, there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to get your teeth into, and I like it. All the cogs are turning at full steam. It's working really well, and I like the fact that I've got no idea what's
mm.
going on. Even though, I mean, I said it last week. Even though we know the eventual end game, I like it that we have no idea where this is going at the minute. So yeah, it's really good. I'm really enjoying it.
I mean, that is why I didn't use your alliterative name. I didn't use the angry part because I know you're not angry about the show, so we
No,
just don't
no,
need that.
there's no anger, and that's
Yeah.
fresh for me. It's fresh for me. Like I had a lot of things to say about Kenobi and
hmm
Book of Boba Fett, and this time around, this was the show that I really sort of I wasn't interested in, to be
hmm
quite honest, because of that. I didn't think we needed it, but you know the way they've set the store, the way they're doing certain things with the Imperials, and then a couple of characters get introduced in this episode. Yeah, it's shaping up really well. I'm liking the structure. I'm liking the characterizations, and the way it's written is bloody superb.
Yeah. I think you said it last week, and Matt and I have said it in the episodes that I've been on him with. The direction has been strong. I think in every episode, including this one, there's a couple of moments which really stood out to me in this episode.
Yeah,
The acting has been excellent from all the cast, I would say. But I think you guys mentioned as well as Matt and I, how like some small characters have managed to get under your skin really quickly. And I think all of that's performance, of course. All of that's how they've been presented by the direction, but mostly it's in the writing.
yeah, 100%. It's so cleanly written. I mean, we're being treated to an imperial delight. And you know, again, I'm repeating some of the things I said last week, but it's because it's constantly in my mind, it's constantly in my focus that you know we're seeing a side of the Imperials that we haven't seen before, and it's engaging. It's really interesting. They're not just this, you know, plain and simple evil force. Obviously, they're evil, but there's underlying sort of things that are running through their heads. You know, from their perspective, they're dealing with massive breaches of security, and it's interesting to see how they cope with it and try and you know stop this rebellion. And they're going about it the wrong way, and it's
Mm,
falling into the hands of somebody else, and that's what's making it interesting because it's playing into the people that want the Imperials to overreach, to overstep their authority. It's great. It's we're being sort of shown almost like a bit of a mirror as to what
mm,
you know is going on you know in our world really, you know, overreaching governments, over pressurizing, you know, civilians, raising prices, raising taxes, you know, punishing for you know the smallest things. It's great. It's amazing they've actually been able to you know have this series be released by
mm.
Disney because we're being treated to you know fascism on screen, aren't we? In all its glory, while small people are trying to fight back. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, so many things you said there echoing with what's going on in our own country, let alone obviously the time this was written, I assume under the Trump administration, and a lot of
Mm.
the viewpoints are clearly coming through there. I mean, it's proper long form storytelling, isn't it? This
Oh
show
yeah.
is not about like fan service. It's not about like oh, look at this cool moment. Although there are cool moments, but it's proper long form storytelling about characters and
Yeah,
developing the galaxy. And there was a line this week which echoes everything you've said, or like surmises everything you've said. And I believe it was like oppression breeds rebellion. And it was Luthen
yeah,
who was talking to Saw. We're already
yeah,
jumping all over the place. This is literally the last scene of the episode. But I thought that line was fantastic.
yeah. And I mean, like you said, it's not delving into fan service. So, like you said, Saw Gerrera comes into this, and like me and the missus both kind of went, oh, cool,
Mm,
you know. But then it didn't really sort of hammer it home, like, you must remember this guy. He was in Rogue One, la 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 la. He's been in this game. He's been in, this animation show and all
mm,
this. And it didn't really do that. I kind of just had him said, you recognize this guy, but this is him before, he goes full extremist. And yeah, it was again, it's the focus on writing and the dialogue within that scene with Stellan Skarsgård, whose name still evades me. I'm really terrible with
Luthen
names.
Rail.
That's it. Fucking hell, Christ Almighty! But it's not a major issue for me that I don't remember the characters' names because
Mm-hmm.
I am engaging with them. I'm engaging with them purely because I'm listening to what they're saying.
Mm,
And with that scene with Saw Gerrera, like you said, that line, it's they're both extremists, both of those men. One of them doesn't really care. He's going to go out in a blaze of glory, and the other one's saying, "Well, we need to have our collective might come together to defeat the Empire in the end game." And it's just fascinating listening to
mm,
like both sides of this guerrilla warfare.
mm.
Brilliant. And it, like you said, it didn't play up to the fan service. It didn't go, here he is, here's Saw Gerrera. It just had him sat in a chair
Yeah.
going, well, you're going to give me these shield generators or not? And a bit of back and forth. Well, no, I'm not giving you them. Oh, well, then fuck off then.
Yeah, it was
That
exactly
was
that.
essentially what it was. It was like, and then the scene was over and you're like, oh, okay then,
Mm,
cool. Moving on back to Andor in the crazy prison.
mm.
Um,
Which we'll definitely
yeah,
talk about in depth. I
yeah,
think
100%.
yeah, and you mentioned before about how like so much of this is about like the Imperials think they're doing what's right. They think they're quashing like a terrorist uprising.
Mm,
And to an extent, as we're seeing it now, that is kind of what these people are. Like we know Saul was an extremist and we know where his story kind of goes. We don't know where Luthen's story is going to go. It's not looking
no,
great according by the end of this episode. But he's quite happy for the little guy for there to be collateral damage. He's quite happy for people to be killed, to be oppressed, to be imprisoned, to be
yeah.
tortured, if it meets the end goal. Because I thought last week was really interesting how his assistant, which her name is escaping me, it's like
Oh, it's close to Leia, isn't it?
yeah, which I think
Something,
they've done on
something
purpose,
along.
haven't they?
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember it myself.
It's
This is
like
terrible.
it's like Kyron or Kyra or
Something like along
yeah,
those
like
lines.
she went off to have the meeting, didn't she, about
Yeah,
sending Vel off to track down Cassian and to kill him. And you didn't
yeah,
know if she kind of gone rogue, if she was making that decision on behalf of both of them. But it turns out
yeah,
no, Luthen had authorized this. So he's
yeah,
very happy to make these tough decisions if it means he achieves his ultimate goal as well. So there are still clear good guys and bad guys.
yeah.
Claire, I've just found it as we were talking. But the good guys are more than willing to do bad things in order to make
Yeah,
their rebellion achieve its end goal, aren't they?
yeah. That's it. The waters are muddied. Even with Mon Mothma, there's
Mm,
something sort of questionable about her background. Um, even her family. There's questionable stuff in there,
hmm
and that I think that's what keeps you engaged because there is these little snippets of reactions or things they say to each other or don't say to each other. They say to somebody else, like Mon Mothma's interaction with um, that guy she's having sort of help shift money around.
hmm
Her interactions with him are very much like sort of cloak and dagger, aren't they? And then whenever somebody comes close, she's like, "Oh, hi, you okay?" She's
yeah.
smiling, and and then immediately shifts back into it. The engagement, with what she's doing, it's it's incredible, really. I honestly didn't think when the sort of the cast list came out, I was like, well, we're focusing on these characters. What are they going to do? What are they going to offer?
Mm.
And then now I'm just like, I want more Mothma. I want to
Mm.
see, what she's doing, how she's going to do it. And with Luthen as well, like he wants the Empire to do an atrocity, doesn't he? He wants something on the scale that will, basically waken up every other star system
Yeah.
to rally against them.
He
He
wants
wants the
Alderaan to get
Empire
blown
to
up.
strike. Yeah, he wants something akin to, the Jeddah
Yeah,
decimation, doesn't
yeah,
he?
yeah,
Obviously, that comes much later. Um, but he wants something, he wants the Empire to clamp down in a way that everyone sort of reacts.
yeah.
And like you said, he's quite willing to do away with loose ends. He's quite willing to, have whoever it is be killed, and then he'll just disappear into the sunset, and he'll go, "My job's done.
Hmm.
Everybody's happy. I can run away with my Star Killer mask. That's not Star Killer, and the three stones of the Sankara, and fight Indiana Jones." You know, it's fascinating. Like I just love the fact that he has a full blown costume change. He's got dual identities. I love it. I think it's this spy sort of scenario kind of thing, isn't it? It's very
Mm.
James Bond. I love it. I think it's all credit has to go to the writers and the
Mm.
producers on this because they've put their balls against the wall, stapled it, and gone, "We'll be fine."
Yeah. I mean, you look at
And
this
it's
episode,
working.
it is working. I agree. And I think Tony Gilroy's the showrunner. He brings that sensibility to it, doesn't he? That sensibility of like
Yeah.
writing and characterization and dual identities. I mean, the guy who was heavily behind the Bourne movies.
Yeah, exactly. And you can tell, you get that sense, you get that sense of urgency, from, what he's been involved with previously. You can
Mm.
feel the urgency in the characters. You can feel the intricate nature of even the smallest moments when they are talking, when they're plotting. Nothing's left unsaid, and
Hmm.
then there's a lot still, working behind the scenes. That's what's really great about it. Is even though the characters are, actively, telling you, their emotions, they're still hiding so
Mm.
much. I think that's what's
Mm.
fascinating. And I think with this episode for Andor himself, this is the first time I think we've seen him in a place where he's in absolute fear.
Hmm.
That's refreshing as well. So the first sort of half of this episode, three-quarters of this episode, he's completely lost.
Mm.
That was fascinating as well because you're like, okay, we haven't seen this from everything we've seen of Andor. He's been quite resolute. He's been a bit unsure of what he wants to do, how he wants to do it. When you think about Rogue One, he was very sort of, this is what I'm doing. I
Mm.
will do this, and he only changed, really having dealt with Jyn Erso. In this episode, we actually see him, completely panic-stricken to a point. He
Yeah.
thinks his freaking life's over.
Yeah.
So it's the ability to go from one extreme to the other with the writing as well. I think is just it's so good.
Mm.
I'm struggling with superlatives to be honest.
Well, let's go backwards a little bit to go forward. So
Yeah.
this episode is entitled Narkina 5, which is the planet which Andor is sent to, or
Mm.
perhaps the name that's been appropriated for it as this kind of like prison planet. And you're
Yeah.
right, we get the majority of the episode focused on that, but we kind of get two other strands, don't we? We get the Mothma at another party strand.
Yeah. All those parties. Parties are a great place for scheming, aren't they?
There certainly are. And we get the Deirdre Miro strand with her within the ISB and her kind of continued rise through the ranks and her continued
Mm.
kind of challenging of the white male authority figures ahead of her.
Yeah.
So there are kind of three strands, aren't they? And I think what you said quite near the start was this is a little bit filler this episode. It's the closest we've got, I think, to filler
Yeah.
this series so far, but not to its detriment. I think this was doing a lot of work for character, but also for setting up kind of the next stages, isn't it? It is a
Yeah.
little bit of a break on the acceleration we've had from episode 3 probably to now.
Yeah. 100%.
But I think there's a lot of work still being done in terms of, as you said, the characterization for Andor, the characterization for Mon, the characterization for Mira and her perhaps new relationship with Cyril.
Yeah.
All of that is kind of building, isn't it? And I think what you said
Yeah.
then about characters was really, really interesting because a couple of notes I made was that I wrote down that I thought Cassian, Mon, and Cyril were all kind of imprisoned in their own way.
Yeah.
We've got Cassian quite literally in a prison,
Mm.
but we've got Mon imprisoned in this kind of fabricated persona that she's had to create for herself, which
Yeah.
as we learn in this episode, has been for a very long time because she got married when she was 15.
Yeah.
So for more than half her life, I mean, I don't know how old how old she's supposed to be at this point,
Yeah, I don't know either, to be honest.
but
I think we just skipped that, I think.
she's got, like a tween teenage daughter. So she's 40s probably.
Yeah, yeah.
So for a long time in her life, she's been in this persona that she doesn't want to be. And we've obviously got Cyril imprisoned in his little cubicle and with his obsession about Cassian as
Mm,
well. So I thought that was really fascinating that we've got these different levels of like imprisonment that these characters are going through.
yeah. And they're all dystopian in their own ways as well, if you look at them.
Yeah.
Like Mon Mothma's is the extravagant dystopian. She's at the top of the pile. She's looking down on all the shit, but she's in a prison of her mind
Mm,
and a prison of her body as well and her position.
mm. Her
She wants to break
marriage,
out of it. Yeah,
her
exactly.
parentage to her
Every
daughter, she
single
doesn't seem
facet of
bothered.
her is a
Mm,
prison, isn't it? The flashy car she uses,
mm.
the space Bentley, as Mr. Brazier called it, Mr. Spider-Man. And then you've got Cyril, who's in a very that that working office.
Mm.
It's so long, isn't it? It's just that's classical dystopian sort of everyone must do the same thing
Very
at the
Brave New
same
World. Yeah.
time. It's I'm trying to think of a film where something similar that is.
So Brave
Not
New World and 1984 both came to mind for me. This sense of
yeah,
this bureaucracy, this dystopian bureaucracy. Yeah.
yeah, and then you've got the undercurrents of the soundtrack playing underneath, which again is very very 70s 80s
Mm.
dystopian sort of those tones, those flecks of the synthesizer and things like that.
And the screens he's
Plays
looking
into
at
all of
as
it.
well. It's like old
Yeah,
Atari screens or something.
yeah, and when that shot's taken with Cyril behind his back, when
Mm.
Mira comes to get him with those two guards, and he's just sat there staring at the screen, and it's just the same icons blinking over and over again.
Mm.
Like you can't even tell what he's trying to do for the
No.
job. There's no way to even say that he's actually working on anything. It's just mind-numbing insanity, and I think that's his prison.
Mm.
He's literally fallen from grace. Not of his fault, really. Well, it is, but at the same time, he wanted to do the right thing, which he
Mhm,
says,
mhm.
under questioning from
Mhm.
Mira. And yeah, he's just desperate to prove himself, isn't he?
Mm.
Then poor Andor is in the dystopian prison nightmare where they have no shoes and you will get fucking electrocuted if you don't move.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
This episode was very Black Mirror for me. I mean, I wasn't a massive fan. I dropped out of Black Mirror after about a couple of seasons because I felt like
Yeah.
it wasn't actually offering me anything I hadn't read or seen before, if I'm honest. But this had echoes of that show. THX 1138, of course, came to mind when Cassian was put into the prison with all the whiteness,
100%. Yeah,
which was a nice little
clear.
callback.
That's a clear homage, isn't it? Too. I mean, I thought that about the Empire in general. Everything we've seen of the Empire, we're used to the Star Destroyers being grey and black and in space, but at the Empire on the ground has been very clean. It's been very clean room. It's been very. There is no excitement. There is no joy beyond these white walls. It's just the Empire or nothing. And obviously, the only bit of color, which is striking, is the boots they wear, the guards, and the little garb that they wear in this clean room where they're building whatever the fuck they're building.
Like their Back to the Future 2 pumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Face Off. It was like,
yeah.
It was like a reverse Face Off. When they've got like the magnetic boots in this. 'Cause as soon as they came on with the big boots, I was like, "Oh, what's going on here? Prison Planet with big boots, cool."
Yeah,
but yeah, it's quite scary, but quite a clever tactic they've got there.
Yeah, and it fucking made me jump. I think it made the missus jump as well when he goes, "Well, I'm going to give you a demonstration," and all of them just went
flat straight on the floor, didn't it?
Yeah.
Knocked straight on their asses. Absolutely.
Yeah, all in like weird shapes and everything. Oh, God, and you could just see the fucking pain. And that again, like I was saying, we saw Andor the entire time when the shuttle takes off and it goes to Narkina 5. We can see he's a bit sort of like fucking hell. I need to get out of this. How do I get out of this? When he lands and when that device is activated after it, he's almost broken, isn't he?
It's such a weird situation, isn't it? Because he's kind of getting his comeuppance.
Yeah, he is.
Because he was responsible for the Aldani.
Yeah.
Like robbery. So he's kind of getting his comeuppance for that. But
he was literally just walking away.
He was doing nothing for what he's been arrested for. I know it's again clever writing, isn't it? That sense of
exactly. So when that that other prisoner goes, what are you in for? What did you do? And he
Mm.
goes, I didn't do anything. And they all go, yeah, okay. And you actually go, well, he's telling the truth. He actually
He
didn't do
is, but
anything.
also a damn good thing he didn't tell them what he was responsible for. And he finds out later that they all know the Aldani heist has resulted
Yeah.
in this. I wrote it down. Has resulted in the Public Order Resentencing Directive,
Yeah.
which
So
meant everyone got their yeah,
yeah,
gone
all their sentences got extended, didn't they?
got doubled, I
So,
think, overnight.
yeah,
Yeah.
doubled at least. So one of them says, don't look at the screen anymore because they'll just do it again.
Mm,
And it's like that resounding dread that everybody seems to have,
yeah.
like that they're never getting out of there.
I tried to look
It's
that
just,
phrase up because I thought it might be echoing something from the real world. It's a very brief Google search, if I'm honest. But
yeah,
there was nothing that was too. It wasn't too on the nose, but it clearly, these words have been picked very deliberately in a show that's smartly written as this one. I think there
mm,
must be something that perhaps we don't know about in this country that it's referencing from the States. But yeah, I thought again that was another very clever moment that he's telling the truth, but he's lying. And again, it's this sense of what you're saying, like there's truth to what everybody's saying, but also there's what's underneath
yeah,
the truth, what
yeah.
people are hiding too. And it's like if he had said anything, he'd have been absolutely fucked.
No, he'd been executed, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
They'd have executed him in
pushed him
public.
out of the cubicle or found some way to get him. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I loved what you said at the start about how like he's a cog, and I thought it was a real like sometimes when shows or films do this, it's a little too on the nose. But I think the
Yeah,
fact that they're a cog, building cogs, was a very, very fun little kind of moment
yeah,
within
and
the
it
show.
is literally like every single one of them pulls a lever to
Yeah.
tighten a cog, and then they spin it round. They lift it off. They put another one, and then it comes up. They spin it round. Put a cog in, tighten that cog,
Mm.
spin it round, do the same again. It is very much like, yeah,
They're part
it
of the
brought to mind sort
imperial
of like
machine.
the old sort of like communist Russia kind of thing,
Mm.
like
Hmm.
everyone's a cog in the machine under the
Hmm.
imperial power, and you will do this, you will help us build. I thought they might be building parts for an AT-AT or something, but it's not the right planet, sadly.
Oh, okay.
Um,
All right. I was
but
going to say, what do you think they're building? I mean, is it
yeah, I
parts of the
mean, I
Death
would have.
Star?
Well, it
So
could
he's
be.
building the thing that ultimately is responsible for his
That
death?
Yeah, that would be an interesting sort of foreshadowing, wouldn't it? That he kind of helps sort of building parts that are used for the Death Star.
Mm.
Yeah. I don't think we'll find out what it is. I think it is literally just mundane work, isn't it?
Mm.
That they're all doing. I mean, we see that wonderful shot when they're in the tunnel, being taken back to their sort of barracks, and he looks out this tunnel window, and there's just
Mm.
reams and reams of other tunnels, from all the different levels above and below, all people doing exactly the same thing. It
Mm.
is literally like a full-blown dystopian nightmare that he's in at that point, because they're all the same. They all have their names, but nobody cares.
Mm.
You're assigned to a table, you do this work, and then that's it.
Mm.
If you're last, you get fucking punished. If you're first, you get a bit of flavor in your food.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
all
It's
it's
mad,
awful.
isn't it? I don't know about you. You mentioning the names. Every time he says his name is Keith Gergo, it pisses me off because it's so
Yeah,
close to Grief Karga from The Mandalorian. I'm like, what? What's it?
yeah.
Why have they done that? Deliberate accident? I don't know.
I think it's protection from himself, for himself. I think, isn't it? Really,
I get
I
that part,
think
but like,
he's
why
just.
have they used a fake name for him that is so close to a name of another character?
Oh, you mean the writers?
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
They
I don't
literally just
know.
swapped some letters around from the first and second name. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose it is a bit too close together, isn't it? Probably why I can't remember anyone's bloody names, because they're
Yeah.
all starting to sound the same.
And we've got to also like criticize the Empire here as well a little bit because they've got this guy and they've arrested him. What they haven't
Mm.
got any kind of ID tech for faces or fingerprints or
Yeah, yeah. That's the
it's a
thing.
bit weird.
It is a bit on the nose, isn't it? So like when they go, we need to find in that massive room and that massive round table with all these ranking executives of the ISB, and they go, we need to find this man, and then
Mm.
it literally cuts to Andor in the prison. You're like, he's literally right fucking there. If
I'm,
somebody with fucking if they sent it
yeah,
across the space waves to every fucking Imperial facility, some dickhead in a control room would go, hang on, he's
mm.
fucking sat out there turning that cog, you bastard. Should we get
And
him?
I'm guessing it's just another criticism of like the bureaucracy of their
It's that
system, isn't
hubris,
it?
isn't it? I
Yeah.
suppose like they can't even see. the terrorists under their nose. They can't even see the very thing they're fighting, even when they've got it
Mm.
in their palm of their hands. So it's literally the Empire is all about overwhelming grandiosity and ultimate power, and yet they are undone. It's again,
Mm.
it's a bit of foreshadowing for A New Hope. They're undone by the smallest flaw
Mm-hmm.
in their machine, and Andor is a tiny fly in the cog, in the cog of their soup, and they don't fucking know he's there. I mean, they might know he's there eventually. Something might happen, and obviously there's going to be a prison break at some point,
Mm.
isn't there? And maybe that'll factor into it when they do realize he's there, and so
Mm.
does everybody else. So
Yeah, I think
yeah,
I like what you said about his character development here, and that we see him in a new light. But I completely agree with that. But I also like the fact that you could still see his own little cogs whirring. He was
yeah,
paying
he's trying
attention
to
when
figure it out, isn't he?
that guard was late, and he was like, You could see him collecting that, and when he
Yeah,
saw his crewmate doing the like sign language, you saw him collecting that. So you could just see
yeah,
he's in that kind of as a character, you can see that he's always absorbing information. He did it when he was an Aldani. He's like taking in these
yeah.
little bits of information that he always needs that's going to help him later on down the line.
Yeah, and he's doing that with his table colleagues as well. He's
Mm,
worked out who's best at doing what, who's potentially a weakness.
yeah,
Which it could be the older guy on the table who gets a bit stuck.
he looks like he might be
Um,
a pawn, eh?
yeah, exactly. So he's figuring things out, and obviously we have a great actor appear in this episode as well, and
Mm.
he ends up trying to figure him out as well, doesn't he? And it's great. We have him in this, and he's actually playing a decent role.
So,
Controversial statement coming in.
so yeah, what did
Um,
you think of Andy Serkis in the episode? So he's playing like the shift boss, isn't he?
yeah, I didn't know he
Kino
was in this.
Loy. No, I didn't
Yeah,
either. I was like, oh, Andy Serkis.
yeah. I mean, he just kind of pops in, doesn't he?
Mm.
And it was great. I was like, oh, cool. I hope this is not just a random cameo. It's not. He's fully in this, isn't he?
Mm.
The leader of the sort of this room. I was like, okay, great. And for me, I'm just going to throw it out there. Like I said, controversial. I think we get more of a flavor of a proper character
Mm.
in this brief time we've had with him than we did of him as Supreme Leader Snoke.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You get a genuine sense of who he is. He basically says, "I've got 258 days or something like that to get out of here. I don't want any fuck ups. You fuck up, and I'll have you."
Yeah,
And you believe him.
absolutely.
You're like, "Cool, yeah, on the nose,
Yeah.
straight there, telling it as it is."
All his
Obviously,
dialogue
that's
was
gonna,
fascinating because he was going on about like almost like it was a game. Like I'm playing this game and play. He kept saying the word play, play, play. In the sense of like
yeah,
I'm playing the tables off one another and I'm playing my room against other rooms. And the way that
yeah,
he's dealing with the situation and using those workers to his benefit and not
yeah,
caring about their detriment was very telling. And was a very definitely another clear level of commentary from this show about how
yeah,
the Empire can step back and let these guys govern themselves
yeah,
because they're doing it for us. Like that, it was
yeah.
really interesting. So there's like no imperial presence at all in this prison, really,
No,
and the
yeah,
prisoners are governing their own lives, and they're that sense that they've oppressed them so much, or they're put
yeah,
in a situation where they're going to oppress each other. I'm not sure. It was a like really interesting moment.
yeah. It's interesting because he literally says you'll never see that guard again.
Mm.
He'll never come again. And I was like, all right, okay. So they deal with themselves, don't they?
Just when we collect somebody that's died, isn't it? That's the only time you'll see
Yeah,
them.
yeah, exactly. So it's interesting how he's fully rationalized. You know, we don't know how long he's been in this facility. We don't know,
Mm.
what his crimes are. It's just interesting how he's fully rationalized it into playing the game. And it's almost like he doesn't really care, you know, about anyone so long as they complete their job, they do their job, and you know they get the best score. And
Mm.
we're not even sure if that's actually like a required thing.
Sure.
He's just putting this pressure on the. Is it a way to maintain everybody else's sanity beyond his?
Mm.
You know, to stop this because he literally says, doesn't he? We don't want any. I don't want any despair. You start showing despair in here, you keep it to yourself. I don't want
Yeah.
to see it. You know, and we do see that guy a bit later on, doesn't he? He commits
Mm.
suicide
Mm.
he steps out of his cell onto the floor.
And we get the hint earlier, don't we? Because he asks him, "You don't sleepwalk, do you?" Because
Yeah,
if they leave their cells during the night time, clearly they're obviously just electrocuted to death. Yeah.
yeah. So it's fascinating for me, and I think he's obviously going to be the main sort of possible sticking point
Mm,
for Andor when it comes to whatever he tries to do.
it
You
is.
know,
That was another bit I thought was information though, because I noticed once that guy had fallen out and he was dead,
mm,
the announcement then said like return to yourselves, return to yourselves. Well, nobody had left, or whatever the cubicle, whatever they called it.
yeah,
Nobody had left it, but I wonder if that shorts out the floor. When somebody comes, the power is so strong that it shorts
yeah,
out the floor. So I wonder, like we were saying, is the old guy going to be the sacrifice? And he might do it willingly, even kill
yeah,
himself, short out the floor, so it gives the other guys a chance to attempt this prison escape.
yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, this show is all about sacrifice, isn't it? It's all about
Mm,
people. You
mm,
know, even people we're introduced to being killed off. We saw that in the Aldani heist. We were introduced to these, and to all these people, to all
mm.
these, future rebels.
Nemec
That
and all these
they
guys,
all
yeah.
they all died.
Mm,
Bar a couple of them, they all died.
mm-hmm.
So it's that's why I'm enjoying the show, because there are things that will happen to people. They're not shying away from the whole guerrilla warfare tactics,
Mm,
the horror and necessity of you know striking back against a superior force.
mm.
Um, so yeah, I'm expecting a bit more bloodshed to come, really, within the prison and possibly beyond.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I mean, what? So this is episode 8. We've got 9 and 10. If we're following the pattern, that'll be another 2 episode arc. So maybe 10 will be the prison break,
Mm,
giving us maybe a 2 part season finale. I'm not sure.
yeah. It'd be interesting to see what they do, I think. I mean, I said last week I'm not really thinking about what they could do.
Mm,
I'm kind of just letting it happen, purely because we're in uncharted territory, which is bizarre. Even though like I said, we do know the end game. We're in uncharted territory with
mm.
this story, with regards where it goes in the short term. So, um, yeah, it's just bloody fascinating.
It is. And I read, I did a bit of obviously research before we came on, and I hadn't picked up on this as I was watching, that one of the main guys on his table is a guy called Melshi, who is in Rogue One. So clearly he's going to escape with Cassian and they're going to form a friendship. And he's in the
Oh, he
Suicide
is.
Squad in Rogue One. And he's the guy who breaks Jyn Erso out at the start of the movie.
Oh,
So look,
yeah.
I'm not claiming any knowledge here. I read that some other clever person on the internet. Thank you. I can't remember where I read that, but yeah.
Oh, see, I like that. I didn't even
So
notice that.
so the character who like had him up against the wall outside the cubicles and was saying, yeah, as you said, like don't count the numbers and all this stuff. That's Melshi, and he's the same actor and the same character that's in Rogue One. Though.
Nice. I didn't even notice that.
No.
See, that's what I like. That's what I like. It's fan service, and yet
Mm-hmm.
it's not. It's
Mm-hmm.
doing it in an organic way that builds character, that builds, it's just a random geezer from Rogue One,
Mm.
you probably wouldn't remember, and yet they've gone. We'll get him in here. We'll make it fit. We'll make it work in a way that's organic, and that brings him into the rebellion in the future. So we're,
Mm.
we're sort of building this, the rebellion going forward, like you said. So it has to start from somewhere, and why not with these smaller characters that
Mm.
we don't even know the names of, really?
What did you think of the scene in the prison? I think it's the next morning, or maybe I think it's after the 30-day time jump or 30 shift time jump, as they call it
Mm,
in the show, which I think is another nice little moment that they're not measuring days, they're measuring shifts.
yeah,
And then they get up in the morning, we see them go for like a shower, but the shower is
yeah,
like a closed room with this like light mists
like a
falling.
smoke, isn't it? Yeah.
Hmm. Maybe I'm reaching
Again,
here. It gave
mm,
me like concentration camp gas chamber vibes.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, like the whole series seems to be sort of like the fascist sort of
Mm.
aspect of the empire, isn't it? We know they're a fascist organization, but they're really sort of pinning it, aren't they, towards certain things? And yeah, it is. The imagery is very stark. It's very clear what they're trying to get across, isn't it? That like they march them in without the clothes on, um, have you shower, then get dressed and go to work.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I mean, who's to say there's a form of punishment, beyond that?
Yeah, who
Yeah,
knows
go and
what's
have
in
your
that
shower and
mist?
then
Is it like a
yeah,
controlling drug in there that kind of suppresses? Who knows what they
yeah,
might choose to put? Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a really interesting moment. Totally unnecessary in terms of the in terms of the episode, like didn't give us any new information other than perhaps
No,
this might factor into the escape plan later on, or they just wanted there
yeah,
as some imagery. It felt like a very deliberate decision by the creators to
yeah. Even then, it could have been just like this is the continued uniformity of your sentence.
mm,
You all do the same thing. You'll all go in together. You'll all eat together in the morning. You'll all go in back into your bunks together at the end. You'll wait in the tunnel for the shift to change over. It's the continuous uniformity, isn't it?
mm,
Which we know the Empire bloody loves. All the ships are the same. The stormtroopers look the same. The uniforms are all the same. It's another aspect of that, isn't it? But
mm.
it could work to them breaking out. Maybe there is some flaw in all of these mechanics were being shown that eventually they'll be able to, twist and use to their own advantage to get out if everybody shows their own individuality, which we did get a sense of with, on Andor's table. They've all got their own different ways of doing things. And I think that's where, possibly the escape will come from. Everyone will bring something to the table. Hey,
Nice.
and they'll find a way to get out using their own individual skills.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. You had the guy who was very helpful when the old guy was stumbling. He's like, "Oh, I'll come, I'll help you out, mate." He
Yeah,
wasn't cross, wasn't judgmental. Clearly,
yeah,
that's his character trait to be helpful and kind. Maybe he's going to die in helping somebody else escape. Much
mm,
like on Aldani, Cassian might keep escaping by the skin of his teeth, and other people sacrificing themselves for him, which
yeah,
gives him this impetus to move on forward. I don't know. I did think there was a missed moment here. I thought, Mike keeps talking about this as being like an HBO level show. And we know we've got
mm,
some actors from HBO, but like the actress who plays Vel is from Game of Thrones, isn't she?
yeah.
The actor who plays, I can't think of his name. You and I are going to get roasted for not knowing anybody's names. But the kind
Oh.
of lead guy in the ISB who's pushing Miro forward,
It was
he's
yeah,
from
it was
Game of
it
Thrones,
was the
isn't he, as
Maester,
well?
wasn't he? It was the Grand Maester. I can't remember his name, but yeah, he was the Grand Maester in Game of Thrones, wasn't he?
Yeah. So we've got these
Yeah,
HBO connotations, but yeah, we
yeah.
get no buns and no dongs in the shower scene. Is there no arse or dick in Star Wars in
You,
the galaxy? I
you
don't know.
nearly do. I think you see the crease of somebody as they
Like a
as they
builder's bum at the top.
yeah
Yeah.
as they walk to the end of the thing. You get a bit of a crease, I think.
No,
But
this
yeah,
is great
I
enough
don't think
Star
I don't
Wars.
think we're there yet with Star Wars. You can
They're
have
all
mass
like the actual
murder
Star
and
Wars
genocide.
dolls, yeah, just with it's all just smooth down there. Sure.
Yeah, like the action figures.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, we're not quite there yet, are we?
Okay.
Like I said, we can have mass murder and genocide, but you're not having dongs and buns, I'm afraid.
No. All right. Fair enough. Shall we pivot then? And should we talk about Mon and see? And then I think, although I love spending time with her, I thought this was the most fillery part of the episode.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
felt
because
a
it
bit
kind of
repetitive of what we've seen before.
yeah. I think again, it's a weird sort of. I kind of like it because that repetitiveness is grating on her. So we are
Sure.
seeing, you know, the continuous sort of like her sort of really struggling to maintain the persona. I do
Mm,
like it for that regard, but I did think it kind of took away from what the episode was succeeding on, which
mm.
is everything in the prison. I thought we were going to be sticking in the prison the entire time and have like a really sort of enclosed
Like a
claustrophobic
almost like a
sort
bottle
of
episode. Yeah.
yeah, really closed and claustrophobic, and see Andor really struggling, and then starting to work things out and find out his place in it. So I didn't really, as much as I did like seeing you know more of Mon in these ridiculously lavish parties, and then seeing Saul Guerrero, I was a bit like, oh come
Mm.
on, stick with it, just keep your cards close to your chest and stick with it. But
Yeah, just
yeah,
her conversation with is it Tay, I think is the guy she's working with.
yeah,
The
yeah.
conversation with him just it didn't really go anywhere. He sort of
No,
said
and it's
like
a bit.
I'm not sure I'm going to get you your money. She's like, oh, why not? And that was kind of it.
Yeah, really, that's really a conversation that they probably could have squeezed into the last episode, because that
Mm,
was the episode when she was like, you're going to help me do this," and he was like, "Yeah, I can try."
mm.
That could have done well as being sort of like the back end of that last episode where he said, I probably won't be able to get it for you," and then have her sort of going, "Fucking hell, what am I going to do?"
Mm.
It did take me out of it a little bit.
The only thing
Um,
I felt like I learned from the whole segment really is the daughter. Like I think she's suspecting, isn't she? And she's
yeah, she is,
probing mum.
because
And
she just kind of uncomfortably hung around for a little bit, didn't she?
mm,
Just like, "What are you doing here? Who's this guy?"
do you think she's
And
going to be
I'm
like the
like,
whistleblower?
Yeah, well, it's either it's either her or the father, isn't it?
Yeah,
And I'm not sure about the father.
he might
I
not want to
think
give
it
up
might have
his
been
nice
Spider-Dan last
lifestyle,
week
right?
said, yeah, I think it might have been Spider-Dan last week who said, is he a double agent as well, or is he part of the alliance in some way? And
Mm,
they're both trying to hide things from each other when actually they shouldn't be. I
mm.
don't really know. I think he's just completely blissfully ignorant,
Me
enjoying the
too.
high
And he's
life.
really annoying, which is a testament to the actor because he's meant to be. But every time he's
Yeah,
on screen, I just like, oh God, just go away. Just like everything
yeah,
about you is that actually is like the upper class is that kind of conservative with a big C, like kind of level of success that
yeah,
I just can't stand to see. Absolutely. But if it is
yeah.
the daughter, again, that's another dystopian echo, isn't it? That's another 1984 kind of reference in
Yeah,
there.
because she'll blow the whistle and the
Yeah,
father will be like, "Oh, great, I'll keep all your money then," and it'll be like Mon will have fucking nothing apart
yeah.
from
You have to
you
hightail it
know
out.
exactly. So yeah, it sort of pointed it that way, didn't it? That
Mm,
you know something's gonna happen. The Empire will fucking turn up and arrest Mon for fucking treason or some daft shit like that. But
yeah. Couple of
yeah,
nice references to Palpatine, though.
yeah, they really sort of nailed it on, didn't they, in this episode? Like, Palpatine is responsible for all this, and we got like there was a bit of a discussion in sort of like a circle group, wasn't it? And one woman
Mm,
said, "Oh, I'm unsure about this. I'm a bit scared about what he's doing." So the cracks are starting to form in the bureaucracy, aren't they?
mm,
Which I think leads to eventually why Palpatine does away with the Senate and everything. He basically just cuts out the bureaucracy altogether because those cracks start appearing. And why deal with all those bureaucrats when you can just go, nah, I'm in control.
yeah.
So we're seeing the evidence of those small cracks coming through, which eventually leads to all that happening. So I liked it in that regard because you are seeing even these upper class people starting to be a bit scared
Hmm.
by all the changes coming in and how it's going to affect them. Purely, possibly on selfish reasons, oh, is it going to affect my livelihood? Is it going to affect my way of life?
Yeah.
But it's another level. It's another level that we're seeing, which I think is interesting.
That's the only time any of those people ever care, isn't it? Is
Well,
when
yeah,
their
when their
own
livelihoods are
livelihoods.
threatened, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Galactic war can do that, can't it?
Yeah.
So fear of losing your income, fear of losing your profitability somewhere across the galaxy if the trade routes get blocked.
Mm.
You know, Christ, episode one was right, wasn't it? Trade routes are interesting.
Yeah, let's be honest, this is doing it in a much more interesting way.
Yeah, I mean, again, we keep saying it, don't we? It's credit to the writing.
Hmm.
They're able to make really small. I say really small, but it seems small at the moment because it's all the characters dealing with their own sort of political agendas
Mm.
and their issues. But we are starting to feel a wider sense of how this is affecting, people across the
Mm.
galaxy or how it will do. People are starting to get ill. People are starting to suffer. And eventually there's going to be an uprising and then a response from the Empire. So
Mm.
it's really dark, and I like it that it's dark because it fucking should be.
Mm. And we see that in a microcosm back on Ferrix, don't we? I was surprised to go back there again this week, but we
Yeah,
see
I didn't think
that
we'd go back.
Martha's unwell. She said she's unwell and she can't get the medicine that she needs.
Yeah,
She's trying to
I mean,
start her own little rebellion. And we
yeah,
see
I said I
Bix and
thought we'd go
Brasso,
back
don't we?
later on, but
Mm.
yeah, we've gone back straight away, haven't
What
we?
did you think about all that stuff?
Um, I thought it was a bit baffling that some random guy with a pad went, "It's you."
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah. When they
They
see Bix in the,
chased her from
yeah.
nowhere. I was like, how the hell did you spot her in that crowd of people? But all right,
I
because
mean, I
she's a
don't want to be
named
that
actress.
guy, but Bix is quite a noticeable
Yeah,
figure
yeah. He,
amongst
he
the.
did. He did. He didn't even like look
No.
at him. It was kind of just like the girl. It's
Yeah.
her. Let's go
That
and get
really
her.
attractive girl over there. It must be her.
Yeah, fuck off. There's half a dozen people who all look like her as well. Jesus Christ, you'd have to interrogate everyone just to make sure. But yeah, Andor's mum is ill, isn't she?
Mm.
She's and I think this is probably where I think we kind of alluded to it last week that there's going to be something that happens to her which really sort of spurs Andor on, and I think this, it was edging towards that.
Mm. And Bix,
I
by the
think
looks of the final scene in this episode too,
yeah,
things aren't looking too good for her.
no, not at
I
all.
agree that moment's a bit silly, and then she goes running through the streets of Ferrix, doesn't she, to try and get away. Although, and then
Like, where are you gonna go?
yeah, good, yeah. But we did get this is one of the two things I was mentioning before. A couple of really nice moments. You get a beautiful match cut of her running through the streets, and then we cut to Luthen ship arriving
Yeah,
to see Saul. I thought that was a lovely edit. I thought that was a really good, like,
yeah,
creative moment. But yeah, she is caught, isn't she, ultimately, and then sent to be interrogated by Deirdre.
yeah. And we see the outcome of the
Mm.
shop owner, his interrogation, so we say.
Yeah, because that's how
Um,
they traced it, isn't it? Through the she tried to contact Luthen. They've back traced that signal, haven't they, to the shop owner
yeah.
and now to
So
Bix and
Luthen cut off the signal altogether,
mm-hmm.
quite wisely.
Mm.
Well, he gets ordered to, doesn't he? Like Kaya, is
Claire.
it Kaya? Yeah, she basically goes, cut it off now.
Mm.
Stop it, because we're going to get found out. And he's a bit hesitant at first, but then obviously that ruthlessness comes into him, and he goes, "Yeah, cut it off. Let's shut it down entirely." So they basically abandoned
Mm.
that whole sort of that outpost. Um, and yeah, the Empire have completely traced all the communications back to her
Mm-hmm.
somehow. Obviously, he's given her up, hasn't he?
Yeah,
And yeah, we're going to get her bloody interrogated, aren't we?
very
Hopefully
like.
by probe droid.
Well, I was going to say actually, it had echoes of Leia in the Death Star in Episode 4, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because obviously, thinking about that, Tarkin said that she was surprisingly resistant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see like what a full blown Imperial interrogation could do to someone. And we
Mm.
see that guy is completely just a shell at that point, isn't he? She
Mm.
tries to talk to him as they're dragging him out, and he doesn't even say anything. He's just dribbling all over the floor. So there's a horror there of like, the Empire aren't incompetent. They are very good at what they do.
Mm.
And as somebody who likes sort of the Empire, I was going to say as an organization,
Maybe finish that
as,
sentence. Don't stop there, mate. Don't stop there.
as somebody who likes the Empire as an organization,
Yeah.
as somebody who's a big fan of, like, the visual aspect of the
Mm-hmm.
Empire. Um, I do collect a lot of things, toys and what have you of the Empire. It's interesting for me to see, like, we're not playing with the stormtroopers that can't shoot straight.
Yeah.
No, you will be fucking punished. You will be killed. You will be tortured to the point where you're dribbling out of your nose.
Mm.
It's good to watch. It's good to see a bit of fear back in the
Absolutely.
Empire. It's good to
100%
see it.
agree. Yeah. I know. I think you loved The Mandalorian, didn't you? I think you enjoyed it. And
Yeah, yeah, no, I did, yeah,
but that
100%.
did
Yeah.
riff on that we even had a whole moment in the finale of season 1, was it, when we had the stormtroopers shooting at a target and missing. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was much more playful. I agree with you saying, like, they're a genuine threat in this show, the Empire, aren't they?
yeah, yeah, 100%. And it echoes what we saw in Rogue One, because in Rogue One, the Empire were bloody ruthless in that. They were
Mm.
killing people left, right, and center. Like, the entirety of the team
Mm.
was wiped out, and we saw stormtroopers killing people in that, and Death Troopers. So it's good to see that they've kept hold of that, what they had in Rogue One. That this is war.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. There are light moments, very few and far between in this series, to be fair. But there are light moments. But at the end of the day, this is a galactic civilization that's taken hold of the entire galaxy
Yeah.
through ruthless endeavor. So of course they're going to be evil. We need to
Mm.
show them evil.
Mm.
So
And Vel and
yeah,
Cinta are on Ferrex, aren't they, as well, trying to track Cassian down, so they're keeping an eye on Marva.
yeah. And I think obviously all roads lead to Cassian, I think, don't they? So
Mm.
I think eventually it will come to a point where they may have to unite. They may have to, save, other people in order to go and get Cassian. Because obviously they want to kill him,
Mm-hmm.
but something's going to happen where they go, no, actually, we fucking need him, and
Yeah.
possibly does break out himself. And
Vel does seem reluctant, doesn't she? I wonder if she will catch up with him
yeah,
and will choose not to.
yeah, she's the most unsure about out of
Mm.
everyone, isn't she? And you could see there was really good shot where she sat on that. I think it's like that train, isn't she? And she's just
Yeah.
looking out the window, like completely fucking disheveled. Um, so yeah,
That was
she's
the other
really
moment
questioning
that stood
everything.
out to me. You get the crossfade with Cinta sitting looking out the
Yeah,
window is a beautiful moment, connecting those two, but also considering their different views because they just had a falling out. Where Cinta is being the extremist and Vel's trying to be more measured. Yeah, I thought that
yeah,
was a really well created moment, and again, totally showing us what's going on without telling us anything.
Exactly. It's trusting the audience
Yeah.
to be able to read the situation, which is a bit of a dying art, really, in terms of storytelling, especially with recent Star Wars stuff, superhero movies as well.
Mm-hmm.
We've lost the art of being able to convey meaning and message by not saying anything. And I always bring it back to Return of the Jedi, when Vader picks up the Emperor and throws him over the balcony. As soon as they added no to Vader, Vader's, realization what's going on, you lost the magic, because you can tell in the original cut of Return of the Jedi, when he's looking back and forth, he's looking at what the Emperor's doing to Luke, then back. You can see the mechanism in his brain. You can see what he's thinking
through the mask.
Everything
that's going on. Yeah,
exactly. And you add dialogue to it, you lose the magic of it. So sort of like with this, we see them just gazing out of a window, clearly thinking about what they want to do, what they want to achieve. If you put a line in that going, "I'm going to rescue him," you fucking ruin the magic.
Yeah, I'm going to miss you, Cinta, whilst I'm not with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like you just lose all sort of the realism behind it. You lose sort of like the creative cleverness of it. So I'm glad that even though we are getting really in-depth sort of dialogue and conversation between characters, like we said before, there is still a lot that people are hiding under under these masks. It's so well written. I can't say it enough. It's so well written.
So, as a lover of the Empire, a self-acknowledged lover of the Empire, and all the systems and the way that they govern the galaxy, a big fan you are.
Absolutely.
So the last segment of the
they're purely fictional.
The last segment of the episode really is Deirdre, isn't it? And her journey and what she's going through. What do you think of the scene when she's again like being forced to sit in a room full of these superior, in inverted commas, like white men, and again very deliberately in white, all white guys, a lot of them older. It's not subtle, these moments. The one black guy, Lethen or whatever his I think his name was, he's gone. He's out of the picture. He's he's no good to us anymore.
Yeah.
So we've got all these old white guys. What do you think of her kind of her character and how she's approaching these moments and how she's growing in the show as well?
It's fascinating for her, isn't it? Because she's very much not the fish out of water, but she's the one that's sort of fighting to be listened to. She's coming up with, really solid ideas. And I think the guy who plays Grand Maester in Game of Thrones, he's starting to acknowledge it. He's sort of like, yes, I agree with you. 100% we're going to do what you do, but if you fail, it's all on you.
Yeah.
And there's constant sort of again, there was another reference to the Emperor, I think, in this one. And it's very much like a case of, well, if it all goes wrong, you're going to answer to him, aren't you? Because you're saying this is a galactic wide thing rather than a small secular movement. Well, if you're fucking wrong or you don't solve it, then it's all on your head. So
she's smarter than everybody, isn't she? But
yeah, she is.
She's got that kind of, she's having to start 2 steps back from everybody because she's young, because she's a woman, because she's outspoken rather than just blindly following orders and following the chain of protocol. She's quite willing to speak up. And there is a moment in this episode where she speaks up against the head of the room, and everyone kind of goes like, "Ooh," you can see like the room.
The old deals will make that face of going, "Oh God!"
Until the Grand Maester sticks up for her. There's like a little moment, isn't there?
Because there's almost like a fleck of respect coming in from him, isn't there? Because he recognizes this impulsiveness, within her, and yet he knows that impulsive nature, hides a bit of ruthlessness in her as well. She very much wants the Empire to succeed, and it's nice seeing someone like a character in this who isn't, there is no sort of black and white aspect to her. She's very much for the Empire.
Yeah.
I think it works in her favor as a character. There's a few bits in there where she wants things to run differently, but she's not sort of like, oh, I'm not sure about the Empire. She's very much like, no, we will succeed, and we have to succeed. If we're going to succeed, we need to do this how I'm suggesting.
And the 2 guys we see that work for her clearly adore her, like
Yeah,
love
they
working
idolize her,
for her.
don't they?
They do. That's the word, idolize her. Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then again with the point with what's his name? I was going to say Clive. It's not
It's
Clive.
Cyril.
Cyril. That's it. Cyril again. Within this, he gets to that point as well where he's like, please let
Mm.
me work for you. I can help
Yeah,
you.
definitely.
So immediately people are like being magnetized to her
Mm.
by virtue of her, just a resounding ruthlessness. She knows
Hmm.
exactly what she wants. She's saying exactly what she wants, and then she's fucking walking out, and people are going, "Oh no, 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 no! I can help you. I'll help you. No problem."
Yeah. So is she, from the Empire perspective, too good to be true? Is she a deep cover double agent?
I hope she isn't.
Really?
I don't
Okay.
want her to be. I
Hmm.
I really
You want it
want
to be a
her to
true
be.
believer?
I want her to be a true believer because I
Hmm.
think we need a character like that, like a
Hmm.
Tarkin. We need
Hmm.
a true believer. Um, we need somebody who's willing to push the agenda the entirety of the way. I think we've seen that with the way that she's quite willing to torture people.
Mm.
She's quite willing to, possibly we have. What's the next level from torture? It's execution, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, you know, if we see that, if she goes that far without any sort of without blinking,
Hmm.
I think, yeah, she most definitely is a true believer. I hope she is
Mm.
because we need that. She's not really a cut and dry villain because they're all kind of villainous, even the good guys, like you said before.
Yeah.
But we need that solid foundation of somebody who's willing to push the empire to the point where, something happens.
Mm. I think the actress Denise Gough is amazing in the role. Handmaid's Tale came back this week. I don't know if you're a fan and if you've watched it, but
We've watched up to the end of series two. We've just started
okay.
series three. We left
So
it for a couple of years.
though, every episode you get to anything, bloody hell, well, Elizabeth Moss must be completely exhausted all the time because she just is
Yeah,
so intensely in the moment and in that role and in that character. He's going through
yeah,
these terrible things in that show, but her performance is just the very embodiment of intensity. I get that same feeling from Denise Gough at times. Her physicality is almost like shaking with like controlling herself or anger or frustration or excitement or like you can kind of see it in her movements. I think she's wonderful in this role.
yeah. She's very she's she's not I wouldn't say she's not stiff, is she? But she's very sort of like
Mm,
straight, to the point. She really does remind me of Tarkin. Like obviously
mm,
Tarkin was a bit more flamboyant in terms of like when he's moving around or whatever. But when he was wanting to do something, he was very much like the finger pointing. We'll do this. She gives me that sort of vibe in terms of like the whole like you said the whole physical embodiment of the character.
mm.
That's why I really hope that she is a true believer and they don't do the clever thing in episode 12 and go, "Oh, I fucking set you all up."
Sure,
I
yeah.
really want her to be, the constant thorn
Mm,
going forward. Like, that she maybe rises through the ranks as well and gets
yeah.
to admiral level or something like that. And she's constantly there throughout the series, trying to push the agenda of the empire, beyond all these bureaucrats that think it's safe and there's nothing to worry about. I think that's what's fascinating about her is that she's literally going, look, you fucking blind. You're not seeing the small cracks because they're only
Mm.
these small, tiny machines that people have been stealing across the galaxy and oh, it's fine, don't worry about it. Well, it's not because they're rebellions planning something.
Mm.
It's a much wider thing. She's the only one that sees it. So yeah, I really hope she's not a double agent, that she is just really is that smart and that determined.
Mm. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because I was just as we were talking, I thought I'd quickly scroll through. So the Grand Maester is Major Partagaz, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the other guy, who's the most senior one, is the Colonel Yularen, and he's the guy Mike was talking about last week, who is in episode
Yes.
4, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it leads you to believe that something they're doing is going to go well,
Mm,
because we know how ruthless Vader and the Empire are with
yeah.
those that fail.
Yeah.
So Partagaz might lose his job and might get choked out, but Yularen is going to be okay. So I guess again, it's
Mm,
that sense of like people, something. She's not going to catch Andor, obviously, but there's
no.
going to be some level of success, or Yularen's going to be able to protect himself enough that, as you said before, perhaps she takes the fall for it
Yeah. Could well be, couldn't it? Yeah.
because he makes it through,
So,
doesn't he?
yeah. And we know that they'll step on each other's toes, don't they?
Mm,
Obviously from Empire Strikes Back. when Captain I was going to say Captain Needa, not Captain Needa, Piet. Captain Piet sort of
Oh
like
yeah,
sets
yeah.
up the admiral at the beginning, goes, well, this is the best lead we've had. And the admiral's like, oh no, thousands. And Vader goes, no, Piet's right. Shut up, you. And he gets choked out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So we know they step on each other's toes.
Mm.
Again, it just plays into the the whole fascist sort of ideology that it's always somebody wanting to rise to the cream
Mm.
to the top. So yeah,
They don't mind
yeah,
trampling down
something
the
like
person
that,
ahead
won't
of
it?
them if they can get there. Yeah.
Yeah, just don't apologize. Your
No.
apology will be accepted, but yeah, you'll be dead.
So still no predictions for what's coming next, other than there's going to be a prison break.
Yeah, I think beyond that, I don't really want to make it. Obviously, there's something's going to happen. There's going to because all roads are pointing to some sort of reaction from the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like a grand reaction, a devastating reaction that makes people start to uprise. What that is, I don't really know. I can't really think,
Do we think
other than
Luthen's going to
possibly,
get caught?
I think he'll slip up,
Mm.
but I think it may be in some sort of noble service. I think
Because Bix doesn't know
possibly.
his name, does she? She can't. She can
No,
describe their interactions, which are very minimal, but she doesn't
yeah,
know who he
exactly.
is, does she?
No, exactly. So,
And she'll describe the real Luthen, not the flamboyant fake Luthen. So,
yeah, yeah. So it's one of them, and
mm.
it's intriguing. It's hard. Like I said, it's hard to predict
Which, as you said
what
right
will
at the
happen.
start, is wonderful because it means we just each week we're
Yeah.
getting surprised, and so far each week I've been completely entertained. I've got no complaints really.
No, I don't. Bar sort of like
Yeah, the
minor
niggles.
fiddly bits and
Mm.
pieces. It has been largely entertaining in a dramatic sort of way. It's not
Mm.
been loud. It's not been brash. Um, I mean, I'm surprised like the reports that it's not doing well
Yeah,
as a
I read that.
series. In terms of viewership, and possibly it might be because of that drama aspect. But
Mm.
they've got to stick with it. I think because it is.
Yeah,
I think the more people start talking about it, the more people will latch onto it and watch it for what it is, which is, it's a political drama
yeah.
with,
I guess they're committed to the 2 seasons, aren't they? That's done and dusted. That you
yeah,
kind of we want more of this, really. I thought Obi-Wan was fine for what it was, and I guess more people are going to tune in for Obi-Wan facing off against Darth Vader than they
yeah,
are Cassian in a dystopian, dreary,
yeah, laid for the
depressing,
rest of the fucking
bleak.
universe.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah,
makes sense. But I'm with you. Like for me,
yeah,
this is probably the most successful show so far. It's certainly the best told story so far. And I love
yeah.
Mandalorian, but Mandalorian was hinged on
Episodic arcs, wasn't it? It was like,
episodic arcs and
yeah,
cute baby Yoda and a cool swashbuckling space
yeah,
dude,
yeah, and
space cowboy.
it's sold toys, hasn't it? Andor's not going to sell any toys,
No.
but in the same token, we're getting some really, really possibly some of the best writing and storytelling we've had so far.
Mm.
On a very small scale, a very tight, compact scale.
Arguably ever in the
Yeah,
Star Wars
well,
galaxy.
I don't want to say that. Yeah, I want to see where the entire series goes, but I think because it's difficult sort of comparing these to movies. I don't
Sure.
think you can because the two different mediums. Yeah, they're the same thing, aren't they? Same brand,
The
but
time you can take over a TV series and the development you can make. Yeah.
exactly. But in terms of TV, I think this is probably the best we've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
Even above The Mandalorian, purely because the long form storytelling is working.
Mm-hmm.
The character driven drama is working. The character driven emotions working. We're buying into the very small moments,
Mm-hmm.
which is hard to do. It's hard to nail. This is the sort of stuff that shows like The Sopranos and The Wire were built on.
Yeah.
Really, really in depth character beats and moments that drive the story rather
Mm-hmm.
than blazing action. So for an episode like this, where it is literally really tight, really small in what it's doing, we're still engaging with it because we're believing in the characters, we're believing in their plight, we're believing in their their situation. So yeah, that's why it's probably the best we've had so far, I
Mm.
think. But in
Yeah.
terms of overall, I don't want to say that.
No,
Yeah,
of course not. No, no, no. But I just, and also, you're right. It's totally pointless comparing things in terms of what's best and what's worst. And I'm not really a big fan of best and worst lists and ranking and all that kind of stuff.
no, I
Anyway,
saw a ranking list yesterday. I think,
I saw you tweet
I
about it. Yeah,
retweeted it, and I was like, nah, nah,
with
that's
the classic
bait.
Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah,
Yeah, that's bait.
yeah. No, no, I'm with you. Like that's kind of. In fact, I on my own letterbox profile, I don't rank any franchises anymore. I just list them in the order they came out with my star rating and
Yeah,
my thoughts. It's not a ranked thing because I've as a person, I feel like I've moved past that. It doesn't feel like it's arbitrary. It doesn't mean anything.
yeah.
I think I just
Sometimes it's
meant
impossible not to, but at the same time, you've got
sure.
to
You
go,
can have a
well,
favorite, of course. You know what I mean, but
yeah,
Die Hard will always be my favorite.
oh yeah, best Christmas movie ever.
Whereas Mission Impossible Fallout is now the best Mission Impossible movie. It doesn't matter that it's last and it's most recent. Actually, you stack them up against each other. That's the best told
Mm.
story, individual, and happens to come at that. So, yeah, I think
Is
that's
that the
what I
one
meant.
with Henry Cavill reloading his arms?
It is, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I love that film. That film's great.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Because the story is so solid, and that's what we're
yeah,
talking
yeah. It
about
is.
here,
Yeah,
right? The story and the writing and the drama is solid.
exactly, exactly. That's what
Brilliant.
wins the day for Angry Andy.
It does. Well, we're gonna have to come up with a new name if it keeps going this way. We're gonna have to
Oh, pleasant Andy.
re-adjective you.
Delightfully cheerful Andy.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Yeah, fair enough. We would miss you too much. We would miss those rants way too much.
Yeah, I'll have to go away and find some terrible films to watch.
Well, just watch Grim Cutty again, yeah.
Oh God, no, fucking hell, Jesus, awful. Have you watched it?
I haven't, and I won't.
Good. Don't. Just don't. Fucking hell. I could have made a better film in my frigging garage that's not built.
I have no doubt. There's again, you have to take other people's opinions with a pinch of salt sometimes. But there's a few trusted voices out there, and I count yours as one among them. So I
Yeah,
will not be bothering with Grimcut.
I don't blame you.
Brilliant, mate. So obviously this hopefully will drop in the next day or two. Is
Oh,
this your
good.
final Andor appearance this season, do we think? We're gonna have you
I
back.
think I think so. Because I'm going away on holiday, aren't I? So I'm
Sure.
away for a couple of. So when I get back, I think I'll be
Ooh,
binging
yeah. Let's hope nothing's
the
spoiled.
last few. I think
Hmm.
maybe. Yeah, I think I'll be binging the last few.
So social
Maybe the
media
finale will
blackout
be
for a
left.
couple of weeks.
Say again, sorry.
Social media blackout for a couple of weeks, so nothing's spoiled.
Yeah, yeah. My phone will be turned off completely, so I won't see anything. But
Good news.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing where we go,
Mm.
and what becomes of some of the characters. Yeah, see how far they go. I think that's the thing I'm most looking forward to is seeing how far they're pushed individually, to making the choices that with some of them that we know they'll make,
Mm.
and then those that we don't know, what they'll do, what will be their comeuppance or their success. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it.
Mm. Lovely. Great. Well, thank you for coming again, mate, and supplying
Oh,
all
no,
your
thank
lovely
you.
words.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Always. And hopefully, well, we know we've got some projects coming up in the future in other
Yes,
aspects of fandom, so I'm looking forward to those.
absolutely.
And everyone can subscribe to you on YouTube and watch your videos whenever they drop.
Yeah, of course they can. Yeah, just find me at Angry Andy Reviews. I'm on there mostly movie and TV show reactions. And I had a nice run with House of the Dragon. That was good.
Which I've not seen any of yet, so I've not watched any of your videos. So
You
maybe I'll do
know,
like
ooh,
I've been so caught up watching other things, and I got to a point where I thought I'm going to save it, and then I can just do all in a row. I can just like binge the whole season.
yeah, because I think that's a pretty good. That's a good idea actually, because I think I struggled with the first third of the series. I think,
Hmm.
and then it really picks up.
Well, the way you and
It's
Rhea
so
have been talking
surprising.
about it.
Yeah, it's really surprised me actually, like how much I actually have enjoyed it.
Hmm.
The last, well, say the last, like the two-thirds, the back end two-thirds of it. So
Yeah, that's going
yeah,
to be a November binge for me, I think.
yeah, good. Yeah, I look forward to seeing your remarks and your thoughts as well.
Well, I'll be jumping on giving you some comments on YouTube, I'm sure.
Ooh, lovely.
And in terms of Andor, Mike will be back next week. If I'm honest, I'm not sure who's got guesting with him, but it's always best
I
not to
don't
say
actually.
just in case, because sometimes things don't happen because everyone
Mm,
has actual lives, and this is our hobby, which we love doing. But sometimes, unfortunately, life gets in the way. But I know Mike will definitely be back. And then where's that at? That's 9. Then I'll be back for 10. And then
yeah.
Mike will do 11, and then Mike and I will rejoin for 12 to round off the series. So it's feeling like a long journey, but it's one of those things, like sometimes they say, the cliche, time flies when you're having fun and all that. Time
Mm,
goes slow when you're not. Like this has felt quite a long journey with Andor, but not in a bad way. Like I'm enjoying spending my time there. So long may it last.
yeah. And I feel like it's not a struggle, is it, to sit and talk about it?
No. And to
For
think there's
me,
5 more
compared to
episodes, great.
yeah, for me, compared to Obi-Wan and Boba, I really struggled to sort of put my thoughts together in a constructive way because I just wasn't enjoying it.
Mm,
So, um, yeah, with this, it's been interesting, sort of like just to talk about the minutiae of it.
that
I think
has.
that's what's more the most enjoyable thing. It's the minutiae of everything.
Agreed. And what I'm going to do is go and practice my maths because it's 4 more episodes, not 5.
To be fair, I didn't even clock what you said. You
No.
said five, didn't you? Yeah,
We're
no.
past your
It's
bedtime, so
four.
that's why.
Oh
You've
yeah,
you've got
God.
an excuse.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Thanks a lot. Everybody
No
else,
worries.
take care, and we'll see you soon.